Here's one we can start with. It says, can you remind me of a brief summary of the Tantric sexual desires practice? So I think that was sent out to everyone, wasn't it? So, but no, I think it was per email sent to all. Should I go through it briefly, or yeah? Yeah. You want to do a?
This is an easy one. Sorry. Is yeah. No, I won't. Is the basic space basic knowing and the natural is the basic space basic knowing and the natural state all the same thing? And yeah, it is. Yeah. So it's just one word for the same thing. I mean, the natural the natural state is the Dharmakaya, and you know, one aspect of the natural state is knowingness. So there's basic knowing, spaciousness, equanimity, and aliveness. Yeah, so it's all the one thing, and it's all conditioned reality spring from the basic space, everything. And the basic space is actually who we really are. So we aren't conditioned beings. We aren't trapped by what we really are. Is beyond all our attachments. You know, that's the liberated. That's our true nature, and that's what we're returning to when we practice. So that's why we practice to free ourselves of all the attachments that are blocking our natural state, blocking us from who we really are. And you know, and the dukkha comes, our kind of, you know, existential dukkha comes from being separate from who we really are. So really, it's just like the sun being blocked by clouds. We practice, the clouds dissipate, and eventually the sun starts to reveal itself until there's no more clouds. Yeah.
I can do one that is related, because like usually we speak of the three different qualities of the natural state, but essentially they're not different qualities. It's just very easy to recognize. It's like entry points. So basic knowing is one of these entry points. It's like the one way to recognize the natural state. Aliveness is another one, and stability is another one. And then it says, there was a question, can you explain a bit more how deities are aspects of our mind? So these are also the different qualities that are already there in the full recognition of the natural state. All these different archetypes, all these different deities are already there. But the tantric way of practicing them is through studying them as embodiments, as as energetic beings, so to speak, like the deities. So that's another access point, so that we can come to actually experience these qualities in our own beings through practicing them as tantric deities. At the retreat, it was mentioned, Kim mentioned at last winter retreat that the name of it was the 5 immeasurables. So that's 5 qualities of the natural state. And in that, at that retreat, we practiced the Dzogchen way and the Tantric way of accessing these. Equanimity, joy, love, compassion and wrathful compassion. And in the Dzogchen state, you simply access them in the natural state. In the Tantric approach, is through deities that show the same thing. Just two different modes of practice.
And you can find, by the way, those recordings from the last winter retreat from YouTube, all of them.
Yeah.
As all the recordings of all help retreats.
Here's another one. Are the boomys layers of the mind inside the aura? And is the goal, so to speak, to get rid of the aura? Yeah, so...
Can you put the mic a little closer?
Sure. Yep.
We'll just move closer.
Yeah, so the boomys are inside the aura. And they're layers of are kind of a karmic. Well, I suppose our karmic samsaras or karmic imprints are stored in these layers, and the idea isn't to get rid of the layers, but to actually just clarify the layers of the boomys. So we do that by, first of all, opening boomys to increase our level of clarity, to make the natural state easier to access, and then by perfecting boomys until the whole body and aura are fully clear. I mean, is that? Yeah.
So in some sense, you could say that, like, there's a perfected aura. Then there isn't.
Yeah, like the body and the aura are full of these energy channels called nadis, and the center of the channel is already perfectly pure. So it doesn't need to be. We don't need to clear out any karmic imprints from that part. So that's how we are already able to access the natural state through the center of the nadis. So there's millions of these nadis in the body and in the aura. The center of them is pure, but the kind of the edge of each of the nadis is where the karmic imprints are stored. So when we do our nadi practice, we're kind of, first of all, and the chakra practice, the idea of those practices is to actually to clear out the blockages, the karmic imprints from the nadis. So, and we do the nadi technique first of all before the actual chakra technique, because we're kind of clearing out the main highways, if you like, the central channel and the two side channels first of all, and then the chakra technique then clears the actual imprints from the energy centers and also then from the body. The second phase of the chakra technique is then to clear out the karmic imprints from the body and also the aura, depending on what level of open heart yoga you're doing.
A couple of technical points there, John. I mean, 7, 8, and 9 are in the aura, but aren't 10, 11.
Oh yeah, good
11,
point.
12
Yeah.
outside the aura.
That's right. 11, 12, and 13 are outside the aura. Yeah, they're already pure. There's no karmic imprints stored in those.
And also, do we not purify the central channel in the Nadi technique?
Yeah.
So how can it be already pure?
Well, the center part of it is already pure, but it's the edges that we're purifying.
So it's absolute and relative point of view again.
Yeah.
That it's already perfected. It's in there, the natural state in there. So that can be accessed at any point. But there is also transformation taking place. So it's also a gradual and a non-gradual path. Absolute and relative together.
So once everything's been purified, essentially there's no separation between you and everything else.
And the natural state.
And the natural state. And what distinguishes you? Why do you just not sort of disappear as an entity if you completely purify yourself and there is no sort of.
You do disappear as an entity.
Yeah, but what remains?
Well, the natural state, awareness.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not opposite to personality and all of that. It's just that there is no entity having the personality and all of the qualities. It's just the solidity of it is gone. There was also, yeah, and in one sense, like you mentioned how it happens. This, but it said, where did it go? Yeah, to get rid. Is it good to, so to speak, get rid of the aura? I think. Yeah. But that's like the feeling of it is that it kind of falls away because the separation between the aura and the natural state is gone, and the separation of between body and natural state is gone. So it.
Yeah.
But it's pure, yeah, and the experience of it is that it's just the natural state as an aura.
So what's inside the aura?
The like perfect, pure, perfect channels then.
You still have thoughts and memories and your personality, but there's no knots there. K-N-O-T.
Yeah.
No knots of selfing, self knots that cause samsara.
So basically, once all the knots have been purified, there's no going back to a samsaric state then?
Voluntarily, yes, but not involuntarily. Involuntarily.
Okay, so I understand that bodhicitta is essential, but how exactly is one practicing for all beings, since most beings are deluded and not practicing themselves? Seems a bit hopeless sometimes. So I mean, there are different. Like first of all, I guess becoming a Buddha yourself is the greatest benefit of to other beings. So in that sense, you are practicing for all beings. But also there is the direct, because we've been speaking about nadis, and the experience of it is that they don't stop anywhere. Like they go directly to all other beings. So just like trying to find a good. It is a web, but I'm thinking about which web to use. Like kind of like if you have any organic web, if there is one part of it that is sick, it's going to start affecting. And just the same is if there is one like very, it doesn't really work, but if there is one very healing cell connected to this web, it ultimately starts spreading. It automatically starts spreading to the rest. So it just affects the whole web directly. Starting to shine light, so to speak, into the web.
And also, I was going to say that just because people aren't externally practicing and going on retreats, and it doesn't mean that they aren't sort of dharmically, there's something going on. It's I would say don't be too quick to judge others in that, oh, I'm practicing and they're not practicing, therefore it's hopeless for them, because you don't really know what's happening for other people. And in many ways how you perceive other people is just a projection of your own sort of I suppose conditioning. So the more you free yourself of your own karmic drives, the more you'll see others as Buddha as well.
Yeah, and one thing is also that, like on a different level of how one is actually helping others, is that none of us would be practicing if we hadn't first seen that there is, or figured out that there is something called Dharma. And that's, you kind of usually get to know that from other people, from people who practice. So just like a very basic, by practicing the Dharma and talking, like usually people know that that this person is practicing some meditation or something like that. And if people see results, if they see that it gives benefit, the connection can be made. So
Can I just, it's kind of an add-on to that, but yeah, that it just occurred to me, you know, the question about, you know, practice and maybe judging somebody else's, you know, about, you know, where they are in practice in Dharma and where you are, and comparisons and trying to gauge where you are and where you want to be. And when I'm on retreat, I feel like, oh, this is it. It's so, the energy's so good and clear, and I feel very connected, and it's very, you know, it's very encouraging, it's very positive, and I want more. But then when I go back to my normal life, I can, you know, fall into holes, and I'll feel kind of alone, isolated. The practice is more distant. It's you know, it slips away, the connection, you know, and that's with doing like regular sits. Sometimes I have phases, and with this particular practice, it feels like it's almost like a bottomless pit. It's like I have to, there's more and more to do, like to stay up. Like there's more retreats. There's more like that. I feel like I have to give. So when, for you guys, when have you reached a stage where you're stable and comfortable where you're at with your practice in open heart? Like, you know, is there less intensity about trying to chase? Like I feel like I'm still trying to establish, you know, solidity and security in the practice. Do you feel like you've got there?
well, I certainly haven't got like to the full stability, but of course it's more stable and it gets more stable. But personally, I'm still having fluctuations in everything, motivation, in mental clarity, all of that. It fluctuates, and that's going to happen until there is nothing left. That being said, it does, of course, stabilize more and more. Even if external conditions don't necessarily stabilize, then it's easier to deal with. It's not like if there's a shit day, it's kind of forgotten pretty soon. Like it doesn't stick. So that the span of how long, say, a fight or you've made a mistake or whatever, it doesn't last very long until it gets back to kind of stable. But of course, there are still fluctuations. Anything to...
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, I totally identify what you mean. You go home and then all of a sudden you got to go to work, and you know you come home and you're lonely, and then you know you've got bills to pay and all this stuff, and just use it as fuel for your practice. You know, without difficult situations, it's it's very beneficial for your practice just to deal with these things and kind of let them sort of show you your limitations so that you can kind of have a more honest practice and there's a nice dynamic between being on retreat and then coming back into your life and having to deal with the usual stuff. It's really helpful, for shaking up the karmic knots, basically, and so it's wonderful in one sense. So if you can kind of see it, you know, I mean, like we're in an ideal environment, so you know, people are probably having, you know, well, maybe not. I don't know what it's like, but probably having a nice time on retreat at the moment, hopefully, or well, not actually not hopefully, but you know what I'm trying to say. These are ideal conditions, yeah. So just kind of, just use that, you know, use that dynamic. You're on retreat, everything's great, and then you go back and you've got all these challenges, you know. So it's like the kind of cycle, you know, the cycle of you go through difficult times, then things clarify, then things get easy. Just like a boomy, you know, the cycle in a boomy, the cycle between going on retreat and being back in your ordinary life, you know, it's a similar kind of thing, I guess. Yeah, like you need, you know, it's good fuel for practice. And so, I remember what I was going to say. So if you have the attitude that, I don't want any of this stuff, go away, that won't help you in your practice, because you're just kind of reinforcing the very thing that you're trying to transform. Yeah.
But there is an argument to say that you want to create the conditions in your life to have as enjoyable life as possible. I mean, you're not. I mean, if you, I think. I think we should aspire to sort of.
It's a balance. Yeah.
You can do some relative things to make life relatively better, but you can't control it all. And there's going to be these fluctuations in, like, I mean, everybody knows that, for example, working out and all of that, I mean, it helps, but there's still fluctuations in motivation and all of that stuff. But one thing is also like practicing more usually stabilizes it as a general rule.
Yeah, I was really getting at that thing when it's put to you that, you know, there's a way out of samsaric being, there's a model, there's a map, and it's like that ignites a kind of a real, almost that yearning. Then, okay, well, you know, I want to get there as quick as possible. I want to, you know, open, perfect, and I want to experience this. So it kind of releases a bit of a, you know, there's a kind of an intensity to the, you know, now, I mean, I'm just speaking for myself. That's you know, so I'm like, okay, how do I do it? How do I, you know, and it's like, you know, it's like I want to get rid of, I don't have time for worldly, you know, other things in life, and I'm going to, you know, more and more, but, you know, realistically, you know, I am in normal society, and I'm trying to, you know, get on in life, you know, real life as it were. But I have this kind of practice where it's like I want to prioritize it more and more, because there's this big picture, you know, of you know, purification, of more clarity, and it's like just that balance. That's what I'm getting at, you know, in terms of feeling just secure that you're doing your bit. But it's just finding balance. That's between the two, kind of. That's really.
I know what you mean. I mean, you kind of, you know, maybe there's I don't know if maybe this is incorrect, but maybe it sounds like maybe there's an element of impatience. I want to get the, you know what I mean, and that you know, so that it's good to be motivated in your practice and absolutely do your very best. Well, I heard a really great teaching once years ago, and it was do your very best and let go of the results. Yeah, so do your very best and don't expect anything in return, you know, from your practice. So that means you never get into trouble, because just hold the mic.
Put it in the center.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good one. Yeah. That's a good idea.
Something that I could add to what Luke was saying, I kind of heard it a bit differently from Jonathan did, and something that I benefited immensely in my practice was to stay and live in different monasteries and meditation centers. I haven't lived in such places for a long time, but but let's say like a year and a half I've lived combined in such places. And this has been discussed, establishing a residential center in here in UK, Ireland. I don't know if it's ever gonna happen here, maybe at some point, but and I don't know if it's gonna happen in Germany. We are preparing a Germany to move to Germany in few months with Karl and Monica and my family. So it is a possibility that such a place could be in southern Germany. But anyway, even if it's not there, I want to at some point have our own place like this. And just for the, you know, offer an opportunity for full-time practice, because you know, even if one stays in a center 6 months, year, you know, it changes a lot. It just does, because you are practicing all the time, you are immersed in the whole Dharma thing, so it kind of how do you say, like making a solid foundation, doing that. But also you know, people who have jobs and families, I want to have this residential center open doors, so that you don't have to stay for a month or more at one time. You can come anytime you want, whether it's a retreat time there or not. You can come there and practice. So you know, in residential training place, you practice 3-4 sessions a day, like we do here on retreat every day. That's it, every single day. And that is very important actually for open heart to have such a place. But yeah, it's a bit too early to say anything definite about that, but I certainly want to establish that in the near future.
Can I just develop maybe or move on from what Luke's question is, and that is what I'm finding in my own practice is that things, and I'm talking about little things in life, that used to affect me, seem to affect me less as I continue the open heart practice. And examples of it would be, I open the fridge at home, right, and there's a bottle of this fizzy slur, right, it falls out and hits the floor, and it just goes everywhere, you know. Now, one time I would, you know, right, you know, like that, but it's just, it's there, just clean it up, get on with it, you know. Things like that. I'm just wondering, have you found that, and do you find that as you actually immerse more, that you're having the same situation maybe with bigger things, that they're not actually pressing your buttons as much as they would have before?
So the short answer is yes. That seems to be the process. Things just don't trigger anything, or if they do trigger something, it doesn't stick for very long. In like more and more. I don't know what more to say about it, because yeah, it seems to be the case. We'll do like, I can't read this. I have no clue. So I can do this one first, because I have to go to the kitchen. So, from doing the Semzin practices, I often find myself in the state of having less identification with the thoughts and emotions, as well as feeling more connected to the environment, room, less separated. This this has aspects of some of the states I have found myself in after boomy openings, but does not cover everything, say aliveness and a bigger sense of connection / non-duality. Does this mean there are several levels / attainments when it comes to the natural state, or do I confuse experiences? So from the absolute perspective, again, there is the natural state, and that's it. But again, of course, relative to where we are at on the path, which in like boomy wise, the recognition will vary from a partly like a glimpse to a partial recognition to a full recognition. So it will also vary. So not that, since you can always have the experience of the full, since the natural state is always there, it can always kind of be fully recognized. It's not like at boomy 1 you can only have access to that part, and on the next one you get a little bit more. So it does fluctuate within the boomies as well, but I think this like this question comes from different levels of recognition. So for me, for example, the idea of or not the idea, but the experience, the clear experience of the non-dimensionless aspect, that it doesn't have a location. I think it was first at ninth boomy that it became that the glimpse was long enough that I actually so that's what it that's what it means, so to speak. And it at the 11th, aliveness, for example, was much more recognizable. And even still, I find that there is this kind of like different levels of recognition still, from full clarity to like that there is still something that you can't really put your finger on that is clouding it.
So there's no problem in kind of like you see something happen with doing Zen or Guru Yoga, and then there's no problem in kind of using that. Like it's very nice to sit with open eyes in that kind of state, like this gradual. There's nothing wrong with that. Or would you say like do Zen continuously through Hatha Yoga to kind of clarify as much as possible, like absolute natural state?
Yeah, in my experience, how it worked was that even if there wasn't a full recognition, it was clearer, and then it went back, and then it was clearer, and like I would say that more clarity is good. Like even if it's not the full clarity, more clarity is better until it kind of penetrates through more easily.
Would you call that experience insight or recognition of the natural state?
So it would be like if there is increased clarity, I would say it's like it's a difficult one. Well, I mean, it is a recognition. It's just not a perfect recognition.
Well, when you say three-dimensional space is dissolved and you become at one, that's essentially it, isn't it? It's non-dual existence. It's pure.
So the edges are gone and the solidity of things are gone in the experience. Yeah.
So
in
very
one.
much the natural. That's part of the natural state is being in that space. It's the basic space.
Yeah, but for example, what I'm thinking, if you feel pure, if you suddenly feel like compassion, then I would say that that's also the natural state, even though you didn't clearly recognize the full non-dimensionality of that. If it makes sense. Does it make sense what I'm trying to say? That
Yeah, I mean,
as long as it's getting clearer, softer, all of these qualities, as long as they are seen more and more, I would say it's fine.
So you're talking about a process.
It's
Process
yeah.
flooring where the fog is lifting.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Something a little bit more clearer than you actually did.
Yeah, because the question was whether there are different levels of the natural state, which it's not, but there are different levels of recognition of the natural state.
Yeah, I'm thinking of the example that was actually given on one of the, it was Shinzen.
Shinzen Young.
Yeah, he gave. I think it was him who gave this example about the tapping the hole in the Berlin Wall, and you just looked through the hole and you only saw a certain little thing like a 3, and then you opened another boomy and it was like you had another little bit, and then as you went on, you actually had a more complete picture. So at various times, you thought you knew what East Germany was like looking through the hole, but then as something else was revealed, you got a little different, more clarity. More
Yeah. So that's a very good one. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, so I have to go now.
I think we have just one more.
Well, that might take 10 minutes.
Yeah, no, okay. Should we sort of carry on doing a kind of Hatha yoga when we rest after doing some guru yoga and spending some time meditating? Oh, so you mean when lying down?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, basically, stay in the night. It's not a sleeping session, but if you fall asleep, it's fine. Rest your body if you're tired, and just try and maintain, awareness of the natural state. Try not to get lost in thoughts and, all the usual stuff. So it is Hatha yoga, basically. But it's an opportunity for your body to relax, recuperate, let go of tension. Yeah.
Is there a reason why we do it lying down?
Because you might, just to kind of, your body is probably, might be tired. Yeah. And also, some of the practices we do, because they're tantric, they can be draining on your energy, So, yeah, that's the reason why we lie down. Otherwise, it would just be too tiring for most people, I think.